so I am making a game called Causeway, and I am going to tell you what it's all about now. Now, there is going to be a gameplay trailer for this coming up on the channel at some point, and I'm going to talk about this in depth. But I did just do a pitch to like 50 people in order to establish a team of collaborators. I've got the team I wanted, but I thought, let's not let that pitch go to waste. I will re-deliver it right now to you with the original video. So sort of without further ado, I suppose, here we go. My name's Niru, and this is my pitch for the game Causeway. So what is Causeway? Well, it's XCOM meets Street Fighter, meets Final Fantasy Tactics, meets Super Mario RPG, meets Slay the Spire, meets Bastion, meets The Surge, meets Wasteland 2, meets Starseed Pilgrim. So I think that probably explains the whole game. I can probably just stop here. That's probably enough information for you to go on and you can see it already. In case that wasn't enough information, let's go into a little more detail. So, what is the story here? I think that's a good place to start. So, in the near future, let's say, in the near future, an AI is tasked with looking after the world as an ecological preservation device. So it's kind of there to make sure that flowers get pollinated, the soil is good, carbon levels in the atmosphere are fine, there are still trees where trees were. It's just pulling us back from the brink of a very damaged world. And this is kind of done by a company with only the best intentions that have designed a series of kind of like task robots to go around and farm and cultivate and look after everything. But then that's all gone a bit wrong. So what's happening is that the AI that's tasked with looking after the world seems to have decided that the only way to make sure that the world is safe is to store it somewhere. To be like, you know, the only chance we have of survival is by keeping everything in like a big seed bank, like a museum of the world. And it's all being chunked up into hexagons and stored in a unit somewhere that's large enough to store the entire world. So who are you? You are an old robot that used to be part of this preservation network that is no longer being used because you're not using renewable energy, and it just seems to go against the whole vibe of the thing. So you've been booted back up in an attempt to go and be sent forward as a sort of fairly disposable thing, you're a robot, to put the world back together, reclaim all of these chunks of world that have been stored up somewhere, and like a big jigsaw puzzle, connect everything up again. And anyone that's been taken away, any natural things that have been stored in this crazy seed bank, put them all back in their rightful place. If you ever played Dark Cloud, it's a bit like that. Okay, so the game is a roguelike. You might already know what a roguelike is, but for those of you that don't, let me explain it a little bit. The kind of key parts of a roguelike now, and this is hotly debated, so let's not talk about it because I think we can all roughly agree that two things are always in a roguelike are procedural generation, so you play the game and everyone gets a unique experience because the world around you is generated essentially randomly with a set of rules, and it's permadeath, which means when you die, that's it. You don't go back to a previous save, you go back to the very beginning, sort of. But when you play again, you're given a new procedural space. You're never playing the same thing twice, unless maths is phenomenally unkind to you. And so this is essentially going to represent itself as, although the world is shattered up, the tiles that you get and the pieces of world that you place and reclaim and put back are always different. And you always have new ways of connecting everything up. With a roguelike, you don't traditionally explore the narrative. It's not linear necessarily, or if it is, it's linear in a weird, spooky way. So you don't work out the story or how to successfully get through the game over the course of one run, one long run like you would in like a traditional RPG. Instead, over the course of several different runs, you'll piece together chunks of what's going on and how to play effectively. And the story in particular will only become apparent after many runs in many different directions, leading to many different outcomes. Only then will it all make sense. That is the goal. The only person to whom it will always make sense is me, because I wrote it. So, you're running around, you're placing tiles, and you're putting the world together. What happens when I run out of tiles? you have to fight enemies and get new tiles. You have to bash baddies. It's obvious. So, how do you do that? Well, it's like XCOM. I think you'll all know XCOM. If you don't, it's chess, but you do lots of moves all at once. Sort of. You have a series of actions that you can perform, and those actions have an action point cost, and you have an action point pool to spend in a given time. When you have spent all your action points and you've locked in your moves, I'm going to go here, bash this guy, go over here, I'm going to do a different kind of bash on this guy, and then I'm going to do a special bash that's going to get that guy. Then that's it, you can click do, execute, go, and watch your character go and perform all these actions with a sort of Super Mario RPG style timed means to do better. I'll explain more when you see it, I think is the easiest way to say that. Once that's done, you beat all the baddies, or if you don't beat the baddies, they get a turn too, and they bash you back. Such is the nature of turn-based combat. Once you've defeated them all, you will unlock either new abilities that you can use and add to your ability stack. Like imagine if, Slay the Spire, you guys know Slay the Spire? Like that. And you'll also get new hexes that you can place and build more of the world, and if you can see an island way over there, then you can build towards it better. Until you have to bash more baddies. And those baddies also come in the form of tiles, which you would have to place down. It's all, you're building your own adventure. The whole way through, you are building your own adventure. There is no preset anything for you. You have full control over how you want to approach every situation. That was the point of this game. As a side note, in the footage I'm showing here, in the footage I showed at this pitch, there's no baddies being punched. This guy is just running around punching the air. There were no baddies in this trailer. It was just a trailer explaining how the movement works to an audience of people that for the most part weren't game developers or possibly even gamers at all. So it's a sort of nice visualization, but hopefully it makes a bit of sense. If you're curious as to why he's fighting ghosts, he's not. He's just running and punching. He's having a grand old time. So the gameplay loop is essentially strategize, execute, review. You are placing a bunch of tiles around that are going to form your arena for the combat that you'll eventually have. Then you do the combat. You go and perform the combat, which is kind of like it's like strategy versus tactics, I think a lot of people call it. And then once you've done that, you review all the things you've got, all your treasures. And then the cycle begins again. Such is the nature of a gameplay loop. It has to go round. Eventually, you have bashed so many baddies that you have got to a boss fight, and then you can bash those. And boy, does it just escalate from there. But, I didn't mention any of this in the pitch video. This is why it's probably been hovering on my face longer than it's been hovering on the video right now. There is no relevant footage of this, but we will get to that as we get there. It's a development diary. I'm not going to spoil everything all at once unless you email me, and then I'll just tell you everything. But for now, I think that sort of explains what we're working with and what the game is going to be. In terms of a few other things that I can mention, that I did mention in the pitch video, that I think are kind of important. If you're not familiar with roguelikes, you're probably wondering what the point is of always restarting, and if you are, you're probably wondering what's the permanent elements of this game. So you are making forward progress, sort of. You're always unlocking new things. Every time you do a run, whether it be a failed run or not, you unlock new things that can appear in your next run, and that's shown by having a kind of permanent hub world that you always return to at the end of every run before you go and kick back into another run. And that world is also one where you're placing hexes and piecing together areas, except anything you do there sticks. Any characters you meet there, they have meaningful passage of time stories, and anything that you unlock there stays unlocked for the rest of the game. There's a lot more to this, and we'll address that as new challenges are faced and as things get added to the game. But for now, I think that's enough to go on to explain what's being made here. If you like XCOM and Binding of Isaac, if you like the look of Into the Breach that just came out, if you ever played FTL, if you like a roguelike, but also like pretty 3D graphics, but also like tactical turn-based gameplay, boy do I have a zinger for you. If you like hexagons as a shape, I've got tons of them. So come on down and get involved in the development diary for Causeway. Thank you very much. See you next video.